Oh wait, I can't see you guys.
Oh, Josh can't see us.
Oh, you can't see us, Josh?
No.
Uh-oh. Well,
Sorry.
welcome to another episode of Beyond the Score podcast. Josh can't see us,
Hey,
but
Bobby.
let's what are you gonna there he is. You know
I
what
was waiting to.
we should have kept
waiting
this
to-
cameo and say, listen, we had a clerical error and stuff just happened. Listen, we don't live in a perfect world. We can just roll it through. Sometimes stuff happens. So, anyways, welcome to a great episode of Beyond the Score podcast. I'm your co-host, Harry, and we got Josh, who's got some technical difficulties on the other end over there, but it looks like at the time being, he is good to go. Josh, can we make sure you're alive and well on the other end over there?
I would hope that you wouldn't start the show if you didn't know that I was alive.
No. We would need you. It would be a requirement. I mean, I don't know if we would be able to go on. I don't know if I could carry the team by myself with Ben over here.
Yeah, I definitely would not be able to help out with that.
Yeah, you're like the I don't know how to. I was gonna say like the Scottie Pippen to the MJ, but I'm not MJ, and I don't think you're MJ either. I don't think either one of us are. That's not a good comparison to make, but that's what I was thinking of. We need
We could be Burrow and Chase, even though we would hope we'd have some defense.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, geez, I don't even want to get into that. I don't even know what to say. The Commanders are 2-1, but we're gonna
That's
start
my playoff team.
We're gonna
That's my
start
playoff
football. We're gonna start football, but we're gonna start first with our recap of the picks. Then we're gonna get into our new picks, and then we're gonna get into the rest of the NFL week, and we can discuss all about these crappy Bengals. As much as you're probably gonna want to crap on them, as much as you've been crapping on them all year long. So
I just had to text you and Johnny. I don't really got much else to say.
all right. Well, the Ravens don't look so great, but we'll leave it at that. So let's. You want to start with your recap, Josh?
I have to.
All right,
Bro,
let's do it.
the Broncos literally did exactly what I thought they were gonna do this week, but we had them last week, so I'm pretty bothered by that. But we had the Saints who it seemed like they finally got figured out in terms of just we have Olave, we have Shaheed, and if you stack the box, then we get a little more predictable. But that doesn't mean that we're toast or anything. Just was very annoying to watch go down, and I still think that there were a couple plays that maybe things could have gone that I think that haven't lost hope on the season basically because I know a lot of people will look at one game and then sometimes be like, oh, like this is the start of the end. Nah, like I think there's a lot of good things. The defense looked great. I think actually if Devontae Smith never got hurt, they wouldn't have forced themselves to go to Barkley and it might have been a different game, but it doesn't really matter. Either way, we lost, but 2-0 next week. Harry's carrying.
I don't think you can give any crap to the Saints. They're 2-1, right? They won their first two games. They only let up 15 points, so the defense looked pretty good. Obviously, the second half Saquon took off, but I wouldn't really make this a big deal for New Orleans. They have a big matchup divisionally with Atlanta this week, and that's a must. I wouldn't say a must win, but it would be a really big win if they were able to lock that up, at least in terms of the divisional standings. You can cash Seattle -5.5 for my pick last week. They absolutely destroyed Skylar Thompson's Dolphins. He is not an NFL quarterback. He should not be a backup. He should probably not be a third string.
Harry and I were talking about how, bro, I could do what he's doing, and I would only require like you could take the zero off of how many thousands he's making, and I would still take it just to do that.
And as much as it's all things considered, we are joking somewhat, but I think you would definitely have given the Seattle defense a little bit more trouble bringing you down compared to what they were doing to Skylar Thompson. So yeah, maybe they would have to wrestle you down a little harder, but I know that I've seen you throw that pigskin before, and I know you can get down at least 15, 20 yards pretty easily. So listen, Miami, if you need a quarterback, you got Josh Weil in Plainview, New York, who's looking to take on your role as starting quarterback since you have Tim Boyle, Huntley, and you have Skylar Thompson on your depth chart. I don't know how that's going to work out for you in Miami, but you could lock the Seattle 5.5. They're 3-0. They're looking really sharp. And then, they got a big week, obviously, Monday night against Detroit. That's going to be their really big test. If they pull through and they're 4-0, well, you got a really legitimate team in Seattle. If they go 3-1, people are going to start questioning everything because they had an easy first 3 weeks against the opponents that they've had.
I don't know because originally when I was talking to you about it, I was like, whatever. the way they played against those teams. But I just think that consistency is really important, and to get to that third win, I think matters a lot because you this is such an easy overlooked game for a team that does not have that did not have a real challenge, if you want to say. But I think that 24-3, the defense showed that they're here. I mean, because obviously, like I would love to show what I got, but in reality, like this guy's getting paid to be in the NFL for a reason. He's probably great with the playbook and uh, great with the guys. I don't know if they like him or not, but I'm sure he's a good guy. But I think that it was a very easy game to overlook, and they played a complete game. So I don't think that their legitimacy is totally gone, and especially with the entire division behind them not being as much of a threat right now. So one loss isn't going to do them, but I think they got to be at least 4-2 after six.
We'll see. I mean, this is going to be a big week. Detroit's coming up, but my next week's pick, I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers, a buck and a half favorites. They are going to be playing the Colts, who look like Anthony Richardson still has a lot of work in front of him, which is totally fine. He is the youngest starting quarterback. He's the youngest quarterback in the NFL right now. So
That's a fun fact because this is his second year. That's a cool stat.
this is not a hellfire situation in Indianapolis. The Steelers have a very legitimate defense. They are strong. They are tough. Justin Fields looks like he is improving on a weekly basis, which is really good. Obviously, he's not having those explosive games. This past week, he threw a couple of touchdowns, which looked a lot better. I mean, they completely wiped the floor in the second half, especially of the Chargers. So give me the Steelers next week. They look like a legitimate team. If you asked us prior to the season starting, we had, Josh had the Ravens winning the division. I had the Bengals winning the division. You might have had them as a playoff team. I don't think I had them as a playoff team, but they look like
Oh, the Steelers?
the Steelers. Yes, they look like
I
they are.
I know that I had the Browns in last, and I had I'm
Well,
drawing a
it
blank.
doesn't matter anyways. Right now they're 3-0
Yeah,
and they look really good. So I think
yeah.
they're going to keep rolling a buck and a half against a team that has been really sloppy on both ends of the field. I think, this should be a pretty easy win for the Steelers. So we're going to wrap up those for this week, and hopefully I can go 3-0 next week, and Josh, you can even the stakes, go 2-2, or that doesn't even make sense. I can't be 3-0 and you be 2-2. What are you, 1-1 on your pick so far?
Nah, you 2-1. You're 2-1, and I'm 0-3. I gotta get one, man.
Oh, I'm 2-1 and you're 0-3?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, so I got the
but
first
we're
week
not
wrong.
hiding from it. We're not hiding
I'm
from
not
it.
hiding from it. I'm just really bad at remembering what we actually did in the past, but that's fine because the past is in the past and we only look towards the future. So
Exactly.
we're gonna go from our picks. We're gonna review the rest of
Wait,
the
you
NFL.
gotta do my pick. You gotta do my
I
pick.
thought we already did your picks.
No, I know that I'm 0-3, but my picks still matter, man.
Wait, didn't we just do your pick? Oh, we
No.
just recapped your last week's pick. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of the ball. I'm running with the wind right now. I had some espresso earlier, and now I'm just like in this mode of that's a beautiful dog walking by. My mind's all over the place. But let's hear it. What do we got, Josh? Who's your pick for this coming up week?
Yeah, man, we're gonna go with those Bears money line -135. I think that some home cooking is exactly what the doctor ordered
I
for
like it.
them. I think that at home they played a very, very good Tennessee Titans defense. It's actually number one in yards right now, yards allowed. And maybe that's because the turnovers that puts them in position, but you're not number one without being good. So I think that the Bears defense is legit, regardless of what you think of Caleb, regardless of if Keenan plays, because they should have Rome, should have DJ Moore. DJ Moore has been playing well. I think that you look at it, the monkey coming off of Caleb's back for his first passing touchdown. Whether it was in his mind or not, now he's got it, and now he could focus on bigger and better things, and that is a home victory against the Rams.
I think this is a great pick. Rams look like they're not so great. I know they pulled through a victory against the Niners last week. That was a late field goal that locked in the job for them. But, the Niners look depleted. But the Rams, I mean, they're even more depleted. I think they're going to continue to run the ball, give the ball to Kyron Williams, and it's going to expose their offense. They don't really have many throwing lanes. Stafford is, a great quarterback, but you can only do so much when you don't have a lot to work with. I think the Bears, this was a big win for them. I know that, Caleb, he threw the ball a lot. He was 33 for 52. So he was, the ball was going in the air a lot, but he definitely looked a lot better this week than he did the first 2 weeks. Improvement is really important when you're a rookie, right? I mean, you can't expect the world out of these people when they're coming right out of the draft into, an NFL room and starting day one. So improvement is really key. I think Caleb Williams is going to be a totally fine quarterback long term. He's going to be, the franchise quarterback for the Bears, in my opinion. I don't see any other reason why they wouldn't think of that, over the first 3 weeks. And I don't think that's even a conversation that's being had right now. But,
Oh,
obviously
definitely not.
there's some people, there are haters. They start doubting when you don't produce right away. They're like, oh my God, the end of the world type of thing. And maybe some of them are Bears fans who've been, really depleted
Here we go again.
over the last few years for not being a very
Yeah.
competitive team. But I think this is going to be a big positive for them. I think Rome Odunze had a big game as well. He kind of broke out, had over 120 yards. So I think the Bears look really good, and I think this should be a relatively easy win for them against the depleted Rams.
I think so too. And one thing that we spoke about on our call that we didn't have as a pick, just want to put it out there that we think it's kind of wild that the Vikings are underdogs, and we didn't pick them as our pick, obviously, but that's definitely something to monitor. That and Jefferson having a touchdown in every game. I think those are cool things to look at.
Well, let's go from Jefferson and let's talk about those Vikings. I mean, they are
Yeah.
impressive, man. 3-0. You got to give kudos to Sam Darnold. What he's done this season after 7 years of basically being hated on in the NFL and is now taken over the Minnesota Vikings and has made that his home. I mean, truly, they're 3-0. There's nothing else to be said. He's played amazing, if not close to perfect football for the first 3 games. They've beaten the 49ers. They've beaten the Texans. And as a Giants fan, I feel a little bit better about the fact that we lost to them week one. Like, oh my God, who are these Vikings teams? They go on and beat 2 really good teams. As a Giants fan, you're like, that loss wasn't so bad now looking back, because Brock Purdy only had 1 touchdown that game as well. And I'm sorry, CJ Stroud only had 1 touchdown that game as well. And they got blown out 34-7. So Minnesota Vikings, they are legitimate. Kevin O'Connell, Brian Flores, kudos. You guys are doing an incredible job with that organization and turned around, Sam Darnold's career. And I think he's put in the effort. He's put in the work. Throughout, was in Mike Shanahan's offense last season as a backup in San Francisco, learned a lot, and now he is shining, which really goes to show you that you can't expect the world out of these people when they first get drafted, especially a quarterback where, your expectation for a franchise quarterback is to be your guy for the next 15 years, right?
Yep.
And when you start him right off the bat and things don't go down so well, and after 18 games like Bryce Young, he's getting benched, you have to look at the organization like, did you take the proper steps to really provide the necessary tools for this quarterback to succeed? The New York Jets did not do that for Sam Darnold, right? And when he went to Carolina, they clearly didn't do that. Both organizations seem like
They still haven't figured it out.
they're not, when it comes to these young rookie quarterbacks, they can't figure it out. You add Aaron Rodgers to the Jets, who's seasoned, who knows everything, and has been through every single scenario possible. He'll be able to rummage through, weak run quarterback teams, right? You look
Does
at
he still have Hackett too?
Nathaniel Hackett is the OC with the Jets. So
They brought in his guy. Yeah.
he loves him. He loves Nathaniel Hackett. He loves his playbook, and he thinks his playbook is schematically one of the best in the NFL, and that's one of the reasons why he's so cultivated by this offense. But that's another thing. And then you go and you look at like Andy Dalton, right? He had a fantastic game. We're going to get into that in a separate conversation, but you look at it and you see what happened to Andy Dalton. Fantastic for him. Actually, Ben, let's show how everyone. It's just a post, but this team looks like
They still deserve the credit.
They're rocking and rolling, man. They really are. And Jay Jetta, he is, in my opinion, he was a top 3 wide receiver. Fantasy people were sleeping on him. He was going late in the first round, but clearly he's showing that he is the top dog when it comes to receivers in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think that it's important. It's really cool that they put Aaron Jones in there, the new guy, because it seems like they're very aware and it's very clear what they need, and they know. It probably killed them watching Aaron Jones on the other side with their rivals for years. Now that
For
they
sure.
know how much he could have been an asset for them, and then they watched them take Josh Jacobs, which I don't know if that was the right move, but that doesn't matter because the Packers are a good team too. But looking at Aaron Jones, he's one of the most underappreciated backs in the league, and the team is averaging 4.8 yards a carry. That line's definitely doing work, and outscoring teams 85-30 in 3 games is very nice. I think that's 28-10, maybe allowing 10 points a game isn't sustainable, but having that sort of margin of victory through 3 games, 3 wins, I think it's something that's gonna have the league on notice. And this Packers game, if they can win this one, it's gonna be very impressive.
Well, here's the thing, right? This is going to be a big matchup for the divisional rivals between the Packers and the Vikings. When you look at Aaron Jones, his injuries were the biggest concern over the last couple of years. This is still a huge upgrade over Alexander Madison for the Vikings, so I see them rocking and rolling. I don't know about winning the division; it's such a tough division, but after 3 weeks, they definitely look like they're the best team. I wouldn't say by a whole lot. The Packers look like they're a really good team as well. Without, Jordan Love, Malik Willis has been getting the job done. So kudos all around that NFC North division. They look really good. But
Good brand of football.
this is going to be a really fun division overall, even with the Bears there too. I mean, all the teams, they look like they can make some legitimate noise throughout the season. So we're going to keep you guys updated on that. But let's shift on from the
Absolutely.
Vikings. Let's go on to the breakout players. I mean, what do we got for these breakout players that are in this season for the rookies at least?
Yeah, I mean, we'll start off with your boy in New York, Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, week one, Marvin Harrison Jr. was nowhere to be found, but clearly him and Kyler worked on it and got in sync, even though Kyler came out and said it's not his job to throw him the ball, which I thought was kind of a weird thing to say, but I just saw the headline, so I'm sure it's totally out of context, like these headlines are rather. So I think that his job is just to win games and drive the offense forward. And I think just getting in sync over time, knowing where people are going to be, is going to help you be going to help him trust you more to look your way more when versus more reliable guys, reliable with air quotes, because I think that it's reliable in terms of the trust of the quarterback, not in terms of skill. But now that they have it in sync, I think that it's going to be something to watch for the rest of the year. And Malik Neighbors, I mean, I think that Daniel Jones finally realized that they got me a receiver, so I can keep my job and show that I'm not the guy I was last year and whatever time that he stunk for. And I'm sure that having a guy like that makes everyone else's job a little easier. And I think that also you gotta look. It makes you look at the Giants and Cardinals as sleepers, even if you don't look for 24, 25 for next year, because they're integral parts of the offense that you can build around and then other players will want to play with.
The Cardinals and the Giants, they definitely both got their guys. They got their receivers. Marvin Harrison went fourth. Malik Neighbors went sixth in the draft. This was a draft that was full of receivers. A lot of teams are very happy with their choice. Obviously, Brian Thomas went to Jacksonville, Xavier Worthy in KC, Roma Dunze in Chicago. But what we've seen from the first two guys who went has been nothing but special. I know that Marvin Harrison might not have been there week one, and even Malik Neighbors, really, I mean, he had like 7 catches for 66 yards. He had some sort of a presence, but the Giants' offense was not moving the ball that week, so, you really didn't see a lot of special things coming out of Malik Neighbors. The next 2 weeks, though, what you've seen out of Malik Neighbors has been extremely special, and you see that there's a connection that Daniel Jones has made with him, and that's the reason why they were able to pull out a very nice win last week against the Browns, who have one of the best defenses. Looked like the Giants just ran all over them in the first half. Second half, the Browns made some adjustments, but the Giants were still able to move the ball, which looked good. Obviously, they could have scored a touchdown on that last possession, but Singletary's smart move. He dropped in at the 1 yard line to finish off the game. But going back to Marvin Harrison, I mean, he had a spectacular week too. It was special to watch. He had like 84 yards in the first quarter, and then he had like 130 yards for the rest of combined, he had 130 yards, a couple of touchdowns. So it looks like Kyler has his guy there. I think Kyler is a great quarterback. I think the future is bright in Arizona. For the Giants, it's still, for that organization, it's still a lot of time to see whether or not this makes sense. They have a short week going in playing Thursday night football against the Cowboys, so that's going to be a nice test if they can pull through, go 2-2. There's going to be a lot of question marks around a lot of different things. Are the Giants legitimate? Are the Cowboys a fake team? Which we agree they are fake. None of us had them as a playoff team, you, me, or Johnny. We don't think so.
Mhm.
Obviously, Ben is really happy with that win, too. Ben is also a big Giants fan. Ben,
Well,
what do you have to say about that
I
win?
was gonna say, I do have a question for you here. Actually, both of you guys. Can you kind of explain why he didn't get a touchdown for the Giants? Like, what was the reasoning behind him
Yeah.
sliding at the 1 yard line?
You just want to make sure that the ball is in your hands till the end, because if you give the other team the ball for even 5 seconds, crazy things can happen. you throw it downfield, you get pass interference, and you get in the range to do some damage or whatever. But I think that when you look at the big picture of the game, you want to get they call it victory formation because the ball ends in your hands and the other team has no chance.
And so that's why if they scored, they would have given it would have been a two-score game, but they would have given the Browns an opportunity to make a quick score, onside kick the ball, maybe recover it, and now you're looking at like the worst case possible scenario for the Giants, which it can happen definitely, especially when you're looking at this organization who, the first play of the game they fumbled the ball, and then the first possession for the Browns ended up in 11-second touchdown to Amari Cooper. So these things they happen to us. We can't afford to have that happen. So dropping down at the 1
Yeah.
yard line with just under 2 minutes left, they have no timeouts remaining. Burn off the clock. Don't give them even a chance to even touch the ball is the reason why they did that. Devin Singletary did a smart move. He could have padded his stats, got that touchdown, made himself look great, but that wasn't what was best for the team, and he did the right move there and got us a win. So, we got to be really happy with that performance. I know he had a fumble. He definitely made up for it with that smart play. And we move on, and hopefully we can squash those fake-ass Dallas Cowboys because we never liked them,
Just
especially
watch
over
our
here.
film. Just watch our film.
Just watch our film.
Thanks, guys.
So we'll go from there. I mean,
Course.
two great receivers. We expect big things coming from Malik and Marvin Harrison going down for the season. Some people are saying that Malik Neighbors might be the best receiver, over the next 5 years potentially. I'd love to see that happen. I think Jay Jett is also really good too. So we'll see what happens. But we got some teams that we got to evaluate. Some of these teams, the Dolphins, the Titans, the Panthers, they've had some weird seasons overall. Let's start with the Panthers. They benched Bryce Young. They insert Andy Dalton, their backup quarterback, the veteran backup quarterback, who was I have to mention this, a very great quarterback in his prime in Cincinnati, was a top 7 quarterback in his prime for sure, and leading the Bengals to the playoffs prior to Joe Burrow era. And he comes in and he makes Dave Canales look like a genius over there, right? And they absolutely dismantle not a very good Raiders team, but they made it look easy. Andy Dalton looked like, why has he not been a starting quarterback over the last 4 or 5 years? And, going forward, I don't think that Andy Dalton's going to be their future quarterback, at least for this season. It looks like, it's his job, right? But I think the Panthers really have to sit there and evaluate what are they doing so wrong when it comes to doing their analysis on these rookie quarterbacks or these, college quarterbacks and trying to get someone coming through their door and actually develop them to be a very good player. I mean, they've had some young guys coming through their door over the last few years. Sam Darnold was one of them. Baker Mayfield was another one of them. Look at these guys now finding their own homes in other cities, playing football for Tampa Bay and Minnesota and doing great things. And you guys can't seem to figure it out in Carolina. It really looks poor. And, I mean, I don't know what you want to say on this, but Andy Dalton looks really good. It would be a shock to see them actually make some legitimate noise with him as a starting quarterback. But I mean, they beat up on a bad team, and once they get the tougher opponents coming through, I think this is not going to be, Andy Dalton throwing for 300 yards every single game. But we'll see a little bit more competition, more competitive football with Andy Dalton than we would have with Bryce Young continuing down. Bryce Young just looked lost out there, no confidence whatsoever.
Well, it's about to get very interesting because yours and Johnny's Bengals are in a must-win situation facing Andy Dalton and the Panthers, where that's a game that can be very tricky in terms of what it means going forward because you're gonna get a Bengals team that's looking to do everything to scratch and claw to make sure they win this game, and you might have spent all the energy being hyped about playing well against the Raiders, albeit not a great team. They have a good system going over there, so it's kind of
They
fascinating
did
to
beat the
watch. And
Ravens. Not to cut you off, they
yeah,
did beat the Ravens. So
yeah, I mean, of course, we could look at them beating the Ravens. It's definitely true, but when you look at the end of the season, I'm sure the Ravens, the Raiders, and even looking at like the Bengals and the Panthers, I don't think that the Bengals and the Panthers, just because I said that the Bengals weren't a playoff team, they were my first team out, and I think that next year will be a good year for them. But I think that this is a game that can turn their season back around the other way. And I'm not trying to crap on the Panthers, but I think that when you look at it, you spent so much energy, um you spent so much to get up to play that game the way you did. that the Bengals are going to know that, and they're going to know they need to bring that extra juice, and they're not as good as the Bengals. And I also think Andy Dalton he's good, but I don't think that I mean they let up 22 points to the Gardner Minshew led Raiders. It's not something to scoff at, but it's not something to be proud of either.
Bengals next 3 games, we got Carolina, Baltimore, New York Giants. 3 games. I think they're all winnable games for the Bengals. I hope they don't win at least one of those games against my Giants, but this is going to be a home cooking game for Andy Dalton. He's going to be playing against his former team. Then they have their real test against their divisional rival against the Ravens. That's going to be a big one that everyone's going to be focusing on. How can Joe Burrow adjust if they go 1-3? That's still going to be a must win against their divisional rival.
Yeah.
And then if they can, finish off after 6 weeks and go 3-3, conversation starts changing around, right? You're 3-3 after 6 weeks, you're back to 500. Get another win out of the next, 2 games, you're 4-4, and you start climbing up the ladder a little bit. Things can change. The division's tough. The Ravens are 1-2 as well. They almost lost that game against Dallas, which would have been absolutely miserable. But, it didn't seem like it was possible at one point. And then all of a sudden, Dak Prescott looked like he was playing high-quality quarterback again for the Cowboys. So, going from this, I think, the Panthers, they're not going to be a playoff team. There's no reality where it actually happens. Maybe they muster up, 3-4 wins during the season under Andy Dalton. Great for them. But in terms of picking better in the draft, obviously that'll hurt their stock, but you want to be competitive during the regular season. You don't want to just lose after the draft. Maybe, week 11, 12, 13, when you realize, all right, you're really, really just not there. All right, you're not going to put out your best game plan, but as a head coach, you want to win, right? Your job isn't to look to get a better draft pick. Your job is to win games to help your resume out if you're going to lose your job there and hope for something better in the future. But
there's only one person laughing right now, and that's Joe Mixon, because he must feel really, I wouldn't necessarily think that he's the type of person that laughs on downfall, but 0-3 when they let him go, didn't think that he was integral to continue their success. The Texans, he misses one game and they look like a completely shambled team. So he must feel pretty good about himself right now. Not that he necessarily needs to think about anyone negatively, but I think that he must feel pretty good about himself right now.
They're 2-1. He didn't play last week. We'll see when the season ends who's higher than who. Obviously the Texans are playing better football right now, but still it is still a long season. We don't want to get into this conversation where we're only 3 weeks in now, heading into 4 weeks. Football just started. We don't want to start saying, oh my God, we're getting towards the end of the season. Where did time go?
That's where the emotions are fresh too, is what I'm talking about. More than where the teams will end up at the end of the year. Just looking at them like,
trust me, nobody's laughing more
really
than Saquon Barkley right now towards his former team, looking at them like, ha 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 ha. You guys really did mess up. So I don't want to comment on Joe Mixon laughing at anybody, because I know that there's someone laughing at our team right now, and it's really
fair.
Sad to say. But we'll shift. Fair. Let's forget about these Panthers. They've gotten already enough.
Can I start with this one?
Yeah,
I have
go
something
for it.
I want to say for this one.
Do it. Let's do it.
What I wrote in our note is there has to be someone better than Skylar Thompson to turn Miami around. And I looked at the list of the free agent quarterbacks or backup quarterbacks that signed elsewhere. Go get you Jameis Winston. Go get you Jimmy Garoppolo.
I love this. This is why me and Josh, we know what we're doing, bro. I'm telling you, we don't discuss our notes. We don't sit here and we discuss our game plans, but we don't sit here and have our own perspectives come out now so that we can bring it to you guys raw. We don't sit here and talk about, who should be the backup quarterbacks. On my list of who I think should be the Dolphins quarterback starting, and not as a backup, he'd be starting right now, Jameis Winston, Jimmy Garoppolo. They have Zach Wilson in awesome. Conversation right now. I'm like, Wilson.
He out?
Zach Wilson, he's the backup in Denver.
Yeah, no,
he hasn't had legitimate quarterback play where you're like, oh yeah, because he's got weapons. He's got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and
I thought he was injured. But
Devon Achane.
The free agents.
He might be. He might be injured, but it doesn't even matter. There's no reason to even have this conversation when we've just stated 2 guys who are in this NFL who've been in these high caliber situations. Jameis Winston led teams to the playoffs. Jimmy Garoppolo has gone to the Super Bowl with the 49ers. Why wouldn't you want that type of caliber when you know that you're not bringing in a young quarterback to take over? Zach Wilson's a young quarterback. You have Tua. Jimmy Garoppolo and Jameis Winston wouldn't come in with the mindset of, I'm going to take this team over. Maybe in a perfect scenario, if they play the best form of football, maybe they're like, maybe this person is actually better for us, which I highly doubt. The Miami Dolphins' vision is, We need someone who's going to hold us over for the next few weeks, maybe even the season, until Tua is ready to go, if he's ready to go. I think Tua is going to come back. He said he's not going to retire from this, so we expect Tua to come back, but they don't need someone who's going to be their potential franchise quarterback. Zach Wilson is still young. He's still looking for that opportunity. It's not going to be in Miami. You go get someone who's a veteran who's like, I want to get another job someplace else. Let me go play for Miami where they have these weapons, where I know I can do it and lead the team to a good position in the AFC East for when Tua does come back, and let him handle it. And now you look like a great potential starting quarterback next season if you're Jimmy G or if you're Jameis Winston. And I'm not saying they're not wanting to go there. I'm certain if, the Dolphins are calling these guys, they're going to say, absolutely, let's go. We're in sunny Miami, Florida with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and, Devon Achane, and this great offense, and this, high-powered head coach who runs his offense like, it's college football over here. Hell yeah. Right? So I don't understand where they go and sign Tyler Huntley off the Ravens practice squad. They have Tim Boyle and Skylar Thompson, who started a playoff game for them in 2022. Oh, he started against the Bills and he looked good for, a quarter and a half of football in the playoffs. Then let's have him take over in 2024. What? He's not even a top 64 quarterback.
No,
That's
I agree
ridiculous.
with you. And I also think that if you want to make the most of Tyreek Hill, you get someone who could get the ball 65, 70 yards downfield like Jameis Winston. And if you're trying to hit those slots, if you're trying to play strategic, you get Jimmy G, and you make sure you get those two guys, which it actually is crazy because we didn't discuss that. And but I think that you need to get those guys because having a veteran who knows they need to be ready to go versus someone who is kind of a perpetual backup, even if it's someone new, that you don't want you don't want the lights to be too bright because you need to do something now. And I mean, you look at the free agents are Tannehill and Bridgewater, the top two, but they already did their time there. They're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna go down that route. I don't think that that's the best move for them to rekindle that. But maybe Tannehill feels like he has something to prove. But overall, give me Jameis to Tyreek Hill 75 yards downfield.
I don't see why that wouldn't happen, but the Dolphins need to get on this. They don't have any inclination to get this done anytime soon. I mean, you want to get your quarterback in. If you're going to sign someone, have them learn the playbook, practice for a week under these guys, and have them ready to go for a game. It's middle of the week. What are they doing? They're stuck on Skylar Thompson for some crazy reason, and maybe he's great at learning the playbook and he knows everything about the Dolphins, which he's been there for a couple of
And
years
make him a
now.
coach. And make him a coach.
Exactly. Make him the quarterback's coach, or I don't care. But listen, it doesn't benefit me when the Dolphins win. I couldn't care less. I'm not a Dolphins fan, but I want to see competitive football coming out of South Florida. And the Dolphins, when they put out Skylar Thompson and they cannot push the ball upfield for any reason whatsoever, and there's nothing they can do, you need to change. I don't envision how you can expect this is going to get better going forward. It's not like Skylar Thompson is playing his first game and getting his first real action out there. He's been there, done that, at least in your system in the past. So if you expected him to come back and, be this backup and take over when Tua goes down for an injury, it's not happening. And I don't think anybody sees it happening. I don't know what Mike McDaniel and the coaching staff think is happening differently in Miami, but nobody else is on the same page with you. And if you continue to put him out there and he continues to not be able to push the ball upfield, and you're settling for field goals and only scoring 3 points against the Seahawks, who have a good defense, but you should be able to put more than 3 points on the Seahawks, especially when you have weapons of mass destruction, let's just call it, in Miami.
Literally.
It doesn't make any sense. And, I bet fantasy owners are freaking out right now who have Tyreek Hill, who took him, in the first
And
5
Jalen
picks.
Waddle.
Right. But you take Tyreek Hill in the first 5 picks, you're like, I have, my guy who's going to get me 25 to 30 points a game because Tua is going to chug it downfield and he's going to catch these 70-yard bombs like he did week 1. And then you have this crap performance coming up afterwards because Skylar Thompson can't throw the ball 8 yards downfield. So I don't know what's happening in Miami, but they need to figure it out. And
Dolphins are looking at the schedule. You think that they see the Titans and the Patriots as their next 2 games. Maybe they're trying to make sure they make the right decision. I do think that you shouldn't be looking at it like that. Whereas you could get both of those guys in, have them go at each other, and you look at it, and I think that you could have your answer by the time the Patriots game's over, and then you have a backup who knows the system when Tua's back. You don't need to overthink it. Just get a veteran in there, and if you still want Skylar Thompson, make him beat out someone who's done it.
Well,
then that'll be impressive.
they got two high-powered defense coming up. We're going to talk about the Titans right now too. They're 0-3, but they have a top 5 defense overall, one of the best against the run as well. So I don't know how you plan on stopping that when you're going to continuously give the ball to Devon Achane and hope for the best in those scenarios when you're going to get stopped 24/7 by the Titans.
Yeah.
And then you go and you play the Patriots too, who also have a very good and competent defense too. So you got to figure something out. Miami, if you want to have a chance at these playoffs anytime soon, the Bills are running away with this division right now. The Jets look good and you're 1-2. The Patriots are 1-2 as well. So you're fighting for third place right now in the division. You need to work your way up if you want to have any chance on, playing in the playoffs, playing in, late December or January. So, I mean, whatever has to happen in Miami, figure it out because time is ticking and your fans are not happy right now. I can tell you right now. I know many many Dolphins fans down here, and they don't know what to do right now. They don't know how to root for this team.
Do you think they feel like they're being held hostage by how much they could trust Tua to continue his career? Not that he's wouldn't be loyal, but in terms of
It's not even something to consider
if
right
this
now.
happens again, he might not get up.
You know what? A lot of people are saying you should probably retire after this, but the truth is, you're making a lot of money. And I know that you don't want to think about the money when you're thinking about your health and you want to consider your family, but this could happen to anyone, right?
Yeah.
It could happen to any quarterback. So maybe try to figure out how to prevent this from happening. Maybe pad up that helmet extra. Maybe say, all right, that's it. You're not leaving the pocket for any reason. You're not running the ball unless you're running out for 4-yard, out route or something like that. So protect your quarterback. I mean, don't let him run up field and getting hit 3 times in the chest and the head and the legs, everything. It's brutal seeing him out there. We all hold our breath whenever he's running out there. But let's shift real quick. I don't want to get too much into the details with the Titans. They're 0-3. Will Levis looks like he's struggling out there. I think the number one thing, let me just say this real quick, they need to unleash Tony Pollard. They need to give him the ball, make him a legitimate option, not only when they're running the ball, but also as, a play option on the side. And they got to unleash him so that they don't look like they're consistently throwing the ball in the air, hoping that Will Levis is going to make this magic happen and consistently getting picked off and putting their defense in tough positions as well. I mean, there were so many opportunities for them to win games, and they just kind of blew it because Will Levis kind of gave the ball right back to the other team, whether it was a quick 3 and out, or just literally handing them the ball, throwing a pick.
Now he's just become a meme at this point.
It's been sad, but I think Will Levis is a very sound quarterback. I just think that the offense needs to schematically present Tony Pollard as a legitimate option. Let him run the ball. I mean, last week he had I think 7 attempts, which is unacceptable. And even Tajay Spears had 2 attempts. How do you run the ball 9 times when you have someone like Tony Pollard as your back? When you're the Minnesota Vikings, Tennessee Titans, when you're consistently been a run team, right? You've had Derrick Henry. I know new coaching, no more Derrick Henry, but run the damn football. You have a competent running back. You have Tony Pollard for a reason. So, I mean, I don't see them losing out too much. I think they're going to beat the Dolphins this week, to be honest with you. That's going to be a Monday Night Football game. And I think they're going to probably win relatively easily if Skylar Thompson's a quarterback. The defense should be pounding on them and should give Will Levis a real opportunity, probably a lot of short field chances to, get some touchdowns going, and should be a relatively easy win for the Titans. If I didn't pick the Steelers -1.5, I think I would have taken the Titans.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a solid angle to look at it if they're not going to take their quarterback situation seriously. I think that they're also desperate because I don't think they looked at the season as a season where they're going for the number 1 pick. But if they lose this game, they might have to consider that might be their fate because this is if you lose to Skylar Thompson, you really look at the big picture. Like, all right, we have this defense, but our offense can't move the ball. Do we make a move or do we just see where it goes and then try again next year? You don't want to think about that week 4, but only 6 teams have ever made the playoffs after going 0-3, and I could imagine that becomes 0 when it's 0-4.
Well, you think the Titans are right now scratching their heads how do we let Malik Willis go if they really are going to consider benching Will Levis after week 4? I mean, the truth is they have Mason Rudolph as their backup quarterback. I don't know if they're too thrilled to put him into football games. But, Malik Willis is taking over in Green Bay. And if Will Levis does somehow lose to the Dolphins, which I find that hard to believe actually happening. But listen, football is football and anything can happen. And if he does lose, I think there's going to be some shifts in I keep referring them to Minnesota. We were talking about them a lot. But in Tennessee, I think there's going to be some changes. I'm I don't think it'll be the same route that the Panthers have went with Bryce Young, where they benched him, and it's kind of like that scenario where it seems like Bryce Young is kind of just waiting for the season to end or waiting for a new home at this point. I think the Titans will bring in Mason Rudolph to give Will Levis an opportunity to, rebound a little bit and bring himself back to reality, and maybe bring him back towards the end of the season, give him some more reps. But I think Will Levis is a sound quarterback. He just
I
hasn't
do
shown
too.
it yet this season, particularly because I feel like the offense hasn't really given him the right play calling to execute positive drives for the offense. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. He's young. He still has plenty of time. And I hope these young quarterbacks don't get in their heads too much. I know Bryce Young has lost all the faith. I've seen it with my quarterback and Daniel Jones, where you see that confidence just get drained out of you because you just can't do anything.
Yeah.
And you don't want that to happen so quickly. You want them to, and if it does happen, you need to give them that opportunity to kind of reset a little bit, because we've seen it, and now it's a fact. You wait and sit down for a few years. Even Jordan Love, he was drafted in 2020. He didn't get a real chance until 2022, and then 2023 he took off finally, and now he's franchise quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. So
Yeah.
I mean, these quarterbacks, they're young. They have to have their chance to really learn and digest that they are a starting NFL quarterback. They need to really have the awareness to be able to get the job done, because it's not an easy thing. You have these, NFL defensive backs who are prolific at what they do, and
Yeah.
there's covering spaces, and they make it look like, if your eyes go one way, they know where you're going. They're cheating a little bit versus what you were doing in college, where you didn't really have as many good defensive backs who were cheating so much, and you were able to make explosive plays happen relatively easier in college. Now you have to be a lot smarter in the NFL to be a quarterback. You can't just make those heave throws and expect your receiver to make this catch and run away with, big plays. In the NFL, it's a little different. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. You just have to prepare better for it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that if they lost, that would be a better situation for Zach Wilson to go and put a little pressure on Will Levis, because it doesn't mean that you bring Zach Wilson into, or a guy like that, to take his job. But Mason Rudolph isn't scaring anybody out of being the guy who takes their job based on his merit. It would be based on your own performance. But if you bring in a guy like Zach Wilson, who, if he starts to fit with the offense and you're not winning games, they might say, all right, we might split the game up. We might have him start and then see how that goes. You don't even want to put yourself in that situation.
Vikings have, I mean, the third time I've done this today. I'm not going to do it again because we're going to wrap this up right now. But the Titans have their quarterback. That's the reason why they traded Will Levis, is because they knew that the reason they traded Malik Willis is because they knew that Will Levis was their starting quarterback. And so they don't need that competition in the quarterback room. They have a veteran, quote unquote, Mason Rudolph, who, if something were to happen, they could insert him and get some playing time going. But there is no real threat there because they believe that Will Levis is their guy. They just need to execute the plays for them. Let's finish up football. We can keep going on and on. We're going to bring you guys more football next week as well. We got to shift into some baseball. It's the last week of the regular season. Playoff teams are locking in. It is quite interesting what we are expecting to happen with these wild card teams. But quickly, C.J. Abrams, who is the number one prospect, or was the number one prospect for the Washington Nationals.
Now the future star, future franchise cornerstone.
Now future, because he's been demoted because he was at the casino until 8 a.m. when they had a 1 o'clock game that same day. And so, Ben, you got to bring this up because I saw it for half a glimpse and I just couldn't believe this. Look at this guy. He looks like he is sloshed, right? Look what it says. C.J. Abrams.
Either that or just defeated.
C.J. Abrams lost $180,000 in one sitting at the casino last night. It is not an MLB record. In parentheses, ePay 2023. Wow, what a dirty dog you are, StatFacts. I mean, to put ePay 2023 there obviously was
that's good. That's some good
hilarious
content.
joke.
I love that.
I mean, that was great. But you see something like this happening, and is it an end-all be-all scenario? Of course not. You're not going to sit here and worry about this for the long-term future. The Nationals have nothing to play for this season. They're not a playoff team. They're not sitting here and trying to get playoff seeding in there where they need C.J. Abrams at-bats. They sent him down. Reset. We'll see you next season. We'll see you at preseason. We'll see you spring training, and fresh start. We'll go from there. I don't see this being
together.
I don't see this being a major problem. He's young. He did something stupid. He shouldn't have been out of the casino till 8 a.m. You have responsibilities, especially as an MLB player, to not do these types of things. Go at the casino in the off season. Go when you have a day off the next day, and you could do whatever you want. But you're young. You have to have the right tendencies to prove that you have the ability to be in an MLB, locker room.
That sounds like a day of chasing losses, to be honest. Because if he really lost 180,000, I don't think that happened on one play. But I think he knows he's got money, so he's like, I'll just keep trying until I get back to even at least. But regardless, the first question that came into my mind was, did the Nationals do the right thing? The answer is yes. This is your very young, very talented, was 7 for his last 11 in the at bats before this, um, superstar that you got in the main piece in your Juan Soto deal. I think that they did the right thing because you have to tell him, okay, we're not good, but that doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want. We have a culture here, we have a way we do things, and we're not we're not looking to shame you. We just want you to understand what you mean to the future, and we're very invested in you, and we don't want to see a future where we lose out on a player that we traded an all-world player for because of something like this. If it didn't work out on the field, that'd be one thing, and if they let this go on, it would become a thing because they get all attention for all the wrong reasons. But you look at that, and I think that it's a very good thing. It sets a standard for all the other young players because when you got a team like that with James Wood, with Dylan Cruz, guys like that, you don't know what their tendencies are. You would assume that this is a one-time thing for CJ Abrams, and it's not something the other guys are going to do. But I think that it sets the tone that we mean business. We take ourselves seriously. We think that we could be. I mean, maybe it doesn't really have anything to do with how they think they'll be on the field, but we have an expectation for you and for this organization, and just don't do it again. So, Harry, what do you think they do now? Do you think that it's over with? I know you touched on it a little bit, but you think there's anything to be
There's nothing.
done?
There's no need to make a fuss about this. The
Yeah,
Nationals did not make the playoffs in 2018. They won the World Series in 2019. If they have the right mindset going into a season, anything can happen. Let things reset. You're young. Stupid things happen. Nobody's going to sit here and look at CJ Abrams like, oh my God, how could you do something like this? It's not the end
yeah,
all be all scenario, but you learn from your mistakes and you hope that next season you'll be a little bit more mature, help your team more than hurt your team by staying out till 8 a.m. because we know how it is. If you have a 1 o'clock game, you didn't get any sleep. If you're at the casino till 8 a.m., you're not going to perform well.
yeah.
This baseball's
You're gonna
not
go right to the field from there.
right.
100%.
Exactly. You need to sleep. I mean, there's no way you're going to be able to go out there and play 100% when you don't have any sleep playing baseball. Very tough sport.
And
Let's
knowing that you are in a position, sorry, knowing that you're in a position that you're not in the playoffs, just wait a week, dude. No one's gonna be watching you. Half the people in the casino won't even recognize you, and enjoy that while you have it. Because when you have the talent that he has, then that might not be a thing for very long. Because if he keeps tearing up the baseball like he is, then he won't have any freedom like that. So just wait a week,
Well, now he can do
and
whatever he wants. He doesn't have to wait anything because minor league season's over,
yeah.
so he can do whatever the hell he wants now.
But
Doesn't
do you
matter.
think that? Do you
They
think
said,
they
"Oh, you
would
want to
have
go to the
done this?
casino? You want to go to the casino? Fine, we'll demote you. Now you're in the minors. Go to the casino whenever you want."
Do you think that they would have done this if they were in a playoff race? Because obviously he is
No,
important
absolutely
as a
not.
player.
And I said, and I wrote that as a note to myself. If they were a playoff team, no way they would do this because the truth is, worst case they bench him for a game, but they need those at bats. He's productive, and they would have disciplined him differently. Maybe off season they would handle it differently, but
Yeah,
I don't see that actually happening if they
there
were a
would
playoff
be
team.
an investigation, and then once they were out of the playoffs, they
Right,
would say
right.
the first few games of next year you're out.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's all internally anyway. It's not like it's an MLB thing, anyways. But quickly, really quickly, we're gonna not even get too detailed into this, but Jack Flaherty, you got traded. Detroit Tigers look really good. As of right now, they are a playoff team. Kudos to them if they can finish off strong. Incredible. My wild card. Actually, you know what? We're gonna save the wild card teams. We're not gonna get into that right now.
Yeah,
We're gonna talk quickly about how Jack Flaherty is now on the Dodgers. The Tigers traded away their best player, and they look so much better. So good for
yeah.
them on that. The Tigers are, in my opinion, they will be a playoff team just the way that they're running right now. So it would be a
Mhm.
lot of fun to see Detroit back and seeing the Comerica, right? Are they still Comerica?
Yeah, I think so. If it's the same ballpark, I don't know if they changed the name or
Seeing
not, but
Comerica at the end of October is always a beautiful thing. Even
yeah,
though you're a Yankee fan, and sometimes we've gotten some losses
it
from
is a
them.
great ballpark. Maybe we should do a show there next year.
Um, Fan mail. Ben, we
I
have
guess not.
fan mail. No, we're not gonna do a show at Comerica. We're gonna do one in Yankee Stadium, obviously.
I think we do have some fan mail. We do. We do.
Beautiful. Let's
Um,
bring that up real quick.
so we have a question from Matt from Long Island. What
Let's get it.
is your Mount Rushmore of overrated athletes?
Josh, you go first, please, por favor. I'd like to hear what your list
So,
is, even though I kind
so
of
when
see
I
it here.
when I did it, I had three, and then I had someone I wanted to say is overrated, even though he wouldn't be on my list. So number one for me would be Jose Canseco. I think that he's someone that his OPS plus is 132 for his career. He's a 266 hitter. And he's saying that he paved the way for someone like Shohei Ohtani to have a 50-50 season. He had 200 stolen bases his entire career. I don't think people understand. Like they look at him, they look at this huge jacked guy, 462 homers, but when you look at that, besides that stat, there's nothing about his stat line that's particularly impressive. Um, I think that one that might get a little heat in my home area is Joe Namath, just because his peaks, his he was perfect for a period of time. But if you look at his career as a whole, I don't know if as a whole it's necessarily a Hall of Fame career. I mean, obviously you got to give the champions their run, their credit, but if you give the team the credit, and the same sort of thing for OJ Simpson, RIP, but I think that he was very overrated because of I think he had a lot of attention, and I think that you just look at his career, he never, besides 2 or 3 years, he never rushed for over 750 yards. We talk about how hard it is to be a running back, and I'm not saying any of these guys weren't great in terms of being an athlete, that they belonged in the league, but I think that they're pretty overrated in terms of that, and I think that an honorable mention, who I think could go down on this list pretty quickly, is someone on the Green Bay Packers, Mr. Christian Watson, because
What?
I I couldn't think of a fourth one,
Wow.
so I had to think of someone who I think is overrated now because I think Reed's better. I think Wicks is better. I think I got schooled up by my boy Mike. Shout out to you on Bo Melton. I think he could do what he does, but in all seriousness, I think that he could very well be the fourth best receiver. Dobbs is the guy I was thinking of in front of him, not Bo Melton. But shout out to Bo Melton. I'm sure you don't get any love. But I just think he's not all that, and the fact that they gave him that money, man, I don't understand it. I think that a lot of things with these guys, they get paid for their potential now versus getting paid for actually doing anything, and I think that a lot of money is thrown away doing that. But it's obviously still early in his career and he could turn it around. But as of today, I'm not on the Christian Watson wagon. And my fourth spot on my Mount Rushmore is up for grabs. I wouldn't put Watson there yet because he's still young, but I couldn't really hone in on that fourth spot. But I had a couple guys in mind. So when Harry goes, I'll hear his. Maybe I'll ride the wave on one.
I'm going to just run through mine. I'm not going to get detail oriented in these guys because everyone already knows a lot about the guys that I'm going to say. Going to roll through. I already had one that was the same as yours. Joe Namath. Whatever. I mean, Super Bowl III, who gives a crap about Joe Namath? I mean, his numbers don't look so great. Tony Romo, terrible. I can't believe the Dallas Cowboys still think he's like some savior for them back in the day. Maybe he was better than Dak Prescott, who's also somewhat overrated, but Tony Romo stinks. Number three, Mr. James Harden. Gosh, this guy was he was an MVP. I don't think he deserves an MVP. His efficiency was crap.
That's my one. That's my one. I watched him play when he was young. That's my one. My
Thank you.
fourth guy.
There you go. I
Um,
gave you your fourth guy. James Harden should not be considered as one of the greatest basketball players of our generation, and I really do think that that's something that people are going crazy about. Whatever. He's a good player, but he's not where he needs to be. Number four is a soccer player, and I'm sorry to say it, but David Beckham, you're overrated, man. I mean, great story. You got that great hook shot, and it looks all real nice and all that stuff, but that's all you really were, man. I'm sorry to tell you it. You're a great looking dude, and you're on Calvin Klein's commercials and all that stuff. You got the fragrance and the underwear, and good for you, man. You're making a lot of money, but you're overrated. Sorry.
I can stand by yours. I think that all yours fit. I think that I think we crushed that.
I think they were good lists. Matt, you have to tell us if you approve or not. Whenever you get a chance, give us your opinions on those. And we love hearing these crazy takes, right? We want to hear people give us a lot of crap. So comment away. We want fan mail as much as we possibly can. We want to bring you guys on the show. And I want you guys to stay tuned because we got a special episode coming up. We're not going to get into the details just yet. Just stay tuned on our social media. You will see us putting up some posts. And we would love to hear your thoughts, like I said, in the future. Josh, thank everyone. And then I'm going to give everyone the favorite part of the show.
Yeah, thanks you guys for take two. Thank you guys for coming out again. I I always appreciate it. I don't plan what I'm gonna say here because I do it off the rip, but it's really fun to do this and week in, week out, whether we have the best week of our life or we have tough things go on. Not saying anything happened like that this week for me, but we have when we have that, we always have this to look forward to on our end, and I hope that we could provide an escape from your reality just like it does for us. And keep hitting us up. Get on the show. We want to talk to you, but we gotta see you pop up on social.
Life is just a simulation. And no, that was not the yogiism. That was a Harryism. I just said that one myself. But our yogiism for the week is I take a 2-hour nap from 1 to 4. Guys, you can't make this up. He's a
Maybe
fantastic
once a
human.
year.
He's a fantastic human being. Maybe once a year, every 4 years on leap year or whatever the hell it is. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to Beyond the Score podcast. And like I said, stay tuned for a very special episode coming up.
Itu dan itu